Alrighty, next up on this series of why I am terrified for the future of agriculture and why I see disaster over the horizon, we're going to talk about equipment and the manufacturers thereof, and why, if we're not in the problem already, which I'm going to argue that we are, we're about to be. Now, this fits in nicely with what I was talking about before, about the boomer generation. In the next 10 years, 15 years, they're going to be leaving the marketplace, and some of them, this living dimension. And as I said earlier, the boomer to younger generation ratio, at least around here, is roughly 10 to 1. So these ag manufacturers, they're going to have to try to make a profit with 10 to 20% of the customer base that they had. Because I don't know if you've noticed, ag equipment is not getting cheaper at all. And that's why I'm going to argue that we're already in this inflationary death spiral when it comes to the cost of equipment. Because before the boomer generation took over and their folks were running things, there was a ton of people still in the farming world and plenty of farming industry to go around. Then the boomers took over. Their customer base narrowed. And these farm industries who couldn't adapt to it and cling on to their market share, Oliver, Minneapolis, Moline, yeah, they're gone now. And because there's less people to run them, machines got bigger. That way we could still cover just as much ground, if not more, with less people. And now these things are incredibly expensive. The used market is incredibly expensive, and it's pricing some people out of the market completely. And if things keep going this way, no one's going to be able to afford anything. Like a shiny new X9, some headers to boot, you're in over $1 million. I seem to have left that in my other pants. And right now, the only people that these ag manufacturers are catering to are people who are already in this industry, like myself, and other folks like me, who are lucky enough to be born into a farming operation. But for us, new stuff is entirely out of the question, with the exception of a couple things. We bought this air seeder new. That's the last thing new that we bought. That 670, the header, everything else, it's all used. I guess the grain trailer on our semis was new when we got it. So, woo. I don't know how some of these industries are going to adjust. Because, I know, Deere, they've got their heavy equipment side of their business. CNH does too. You got Cat, that they've got theirs as well. So, yes, they've got that. They're diversified. But as far as ag stuff goes, I don't know how they're going to adjust to that. I really don't. Because it seems highly improbable to keep a business running on 20% of the customer base that you had. Because if you're just starting out, unless you've won the lottery, you're not going to go buy a shiny new X9 to go cut those 30 acres that you just bought. And with the planned obsolescence of some of this newer equipment, some of this stuff just isn't going to be any good in another 20, 30 years. How expensive everything is going to be if we keep going on this inflationary spiral, the only people that will be able to afford it are the ridiculously huge farmers or the massive conglomeration corporations and whatever, which doesn't sound like much of a long-term plan to me. So we'll see who's left standing of the big three by the time another 30 years rolls around. Who knows? Maybe we'll see a JD Case IH, and it'll be green and red with some gray stripes on it and some yellow accents. I think that would look disgusting. Next up, we're going to talk about politics of farming. That one will be fun. Thanks for stopping by.